So we're going to show you ChronoSculpt right now. I'm so excited to actually work with Lino to reveal this. This tool is incredible because it really does save so much time. It allows you to be so creative with your assets and reuse them. Let's get right into showing the interface here.
Hello? Hello?
Are you on?
I'm not on.
Earth to Lino.
Uh-huh. I'm on.
Can we get Lino's mic on? Is he on?
I think he's on.
He's on.
I
Okay.
can't hear me very well. But
All right.
It's okay.
Okay, great.
So, ChronoSculpt.
Yes.
Well, I'm so excited as well because this is something that we really needed.
Yes.
Because we've been working with Lightwave for so much time, so we know that sometimes you have a problem with a deformation, with a rigid simulation that is not so good, and you have to tweak it in no time.
Right.
You can't go back and resimulate or rig again. You can't.
But you know what the
no
beauty of
time.
ChronoSculpt is? The functionality in Lightwave for edit effects has always been there. It's been one of my secret weapons working in Hollywood to be able to go into a studio and use edit effects, which had some of the functionality of ChronoSculpt, to reimagine dynamic simulations and make these changes, but not many people knew about it. And so what we've done with this product is we have unlocked all of that functionality for every software user of every application, and it really is super fast to work with. You've noticed in the demo, we were showing you from a laptop the recording of 10 million polygon objects being moved around just like butter. It was so easy, it was very cool, and that was on a laptop from about 1.5 years ago with a mobile graphics card. So we're pushing around that amount of data, but you're able to bring that in with Alambic, you're able to bring it in with Autodesk Geometry Cache, you're able to bring it in with Lightwave MDD, which is used in so many applications, and you can export directly to Lightwave object files for endomorphs or for OBJs for blend shapes to any application. So let's look at what ChronoSculpt, let's cut to Lino's screen and see what we have in the interface for ChronoSculpt.
Okay, let's start loading an object, pretty heavy object, and a cache, you know, in Lightwave MDD format. So I'm going to drag both of them, ChronoSculpt. That's what we have. We have the base object, but here I have a clip, which is our cache. And I can drag it. As you can see, first, it's so smooth.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. We're dealing with more than 1 million polygons objects, so it's pretty heavy. So what we can do with this? Let's start. Let's say we want to add some variations to this character. We need, you know, a horde of piranha aliens.
Yes.
And we need one with smaller face, or you know. So what we can do is to go in global editing mode, or even in setup mode. Why not? And use, for example, one of the tools we have. Let's use bulge. I can move this influence sphere the head, and then I can drag and get variation. So let's go back, let's go out from setup mode. As we can see, we now have the head, a different head, and the change is propagating through the whole animation. So
that's amazing. So you can create variations of things that you've already done, complex animations, deformations. You've cached these objects and assets out, and you can repurpose them, create variations in seconds. And this is something that is really interactive and cool. You can bring in these cache files from Maya, from any application. All the major applications actually export to cache files because it really is the standard. Those of you who don't know, the Lightwave MDD format from Newtek has really been, it was the first cache format to be offered commercially. It's used in many applications like Softimage, and there's support in Houdini, there's support in all kinds of applications. Our friends at Maxon Cinema 4D, you can use all of those applications, and all of them support one of these formats. So ChronoSculpt is a tool for everybody to use to reimagine, to resculpt their characters, to interactively work in a non-linear timeline with cache files. It's really incredible, and it's a huge, huge time saver.
Yeah, absolutely. You can save the cache back.
Yes.
Another name, of course, in any cache format. So Autodesk cache or Lightwave MDD, and you get your new character ready.
Let's show how quickly you can scale a clip to control the time. Let's click on that blue dot in the middle and slide it to the middle to show how you can move the first and the last frames. Move that to the center, and let's just drag out the time scale.
Oh,
on the first, You can quickly rescale your cache clips to make the animation play faster or slower just with the click of a button.
Yeah.
So if you have a creature swimming or doing something, it's like nobody's business to make these changes.
Of course, the animation stays smooth because we're using a cache file.
Yes.
So there are keyframes that can be interpolated to create a brand new animation, new timing.
And again, cache files are really the format that all the major studios use to move assets through the pipeline. For example, at Disney Studios, they have a proprietary cache format that when they bake the animation on a character, it stays with a cache file and moves all the way through their pipeline, from rendering to effects to the final render. And that's exactly the same technology that MDD gives everyone, and that's why it was implemented across all the applications, and why the MDD format, the Lightwave MDD format, has been used in so many softwares, because it allows you to transfer your assets for any software with losing nothing. This ChronoSculpt allows you to now use any software with ChronoSculpt and blend your assets, reuse, make editing changes, and use all of the things that Lightwave users have had with EditFX for a long time with any application. Again, right now it's released, if you want to purchase it for Windows 64-bit, 32-bit on our website. We do have a Macintosh version coming very shortly, and there is a Linux version planned. So we're very excited about ChronoSculpt. What else are you doing over here, Lino?
I'm trying to correct the deformation that is not so perfect. And I can easily edit any part of the... I'm using the drag tool in this case.
So essentially, you're sculpting over time on a timeline. So we have taken the concept of sculpting and reimagining your assets and done it over time. So you actually can change your assets, make those adjustments in a real time-centric way on a timeline with a nonlinear approach. These are non-destructive edits, so they are not destroying your original cache file. You can save these projects and reload them later. You can also bake this down to a new cache file. You can also load multiple clips of cache files and it places them in the timeline for you to work with all of them.
I mean, we're dealing with this kind of density.
Yes.
So it's
There's a couple polygons there, you know.
Pretty amazing, and you know, you can manipulate them all.
Look at
in an
that.
incredible way.
Just like butter.
I'm amazed.
I love that.
I'm amazed.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So this was an organic example. Let's go to a dynamic example. So
because cache files are used for character animation to bake out the vertices on that, but also it's the format to bake out simulations for soft bodies and rigid bodies. Now those of you who have worked in dynamic simulation, you know that the work that is done on this is time consuming and oftentimes difficult to get those settings perfectly right. So if a change is made late in the process, then you have to go back and recalculate those simulations. It causes all kinds of heartache, especially in a schedule where you don't have time to do that. ChronoSculpt allows you to load those dynamic simulations in from any package, make those adjustments really quickly, and resave out those cache files to use in any software, in any pipeline, and resolve your issues quickly. Now let's look at a simple example for dynamic rigid body simulation.
Yeah. So we have this example here, the ball falling on some blocks that get smashed.
Right.
We have some of the pieces.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like the cube coming off the edge.
Oh, you mean this one?
Yeah. Can you change that, because that's going to ruin my shot. You know, I hate things falling off the edge, and I want you to keep it on there. Well, normally, what would you have to do, Lino?
Recalculate, go back to the scene, and regenerate the dynamic simulation.
So you mean me as your director, I would have to come back some other day to see this change?
Well, maybe not a day, but
hours.
After,
okay.
After lunch.
Okay.
After your lunch, not my lunch.
We're using Lightwave, so yeah, maybe after lunch. But other softwares, you may have to come back another day. Okay.
So, yeah. There is a tool we have in ChronoSculpt that's called Pin.
Pin tool.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So we can decide when we want to pin an object, a part.
Right.
Exactly there. So let's select this tool and just click on the box. So now we have pinned the animation, the dynamic animation exactly there. going down. Of course, you can change the curve.
The curves.
So
it doesn't just snap into position.
Yeah.
You can actually get the right look on this without having to recalculate simulations. You know, again, I want to point out that cache files are used not only on your character animations to move assets through any pipeline, but you're looking at the same type of cache file used for rigid body simulations. So ChronoSculpt works with all of that. So you can make these adjustments quickly. You don't have to go back to square one and recalculate, because as a director, I'm looking at this, I like everything the way it's working, and I don't want you to resimulate and change it all. I just want you to make the cube not fall off the side. Well, this is the way you do it in 2 seconds. It is really useful, time saver for everybody with any software package. It works with all formats and any software, and it's very cool to have this tool for anybody to get shots out quickly and not have to resimulate all those dynamic simulations.
let's go for something a little more complex.
A little complex. You're going to push the limit, aren't you, Lino?
I can. So let's load this breach demolition. I want to point out how it's cool to just drag things, and I'm dragging the object and the cache at once.
So he's dragging and dropping the files directly into the interface. Forget about the load scene and trying to find all that stuff. You just drag them over there.
Yeah, so let's play this animation, and this bridge is going to be completely destroyed, but we can prevent some pieces to be broken. So,
can I just point out one more thing to those users who don't use Lightwave? The really cool thing about Lightwave assets is what you're looking at, go through the timeline. That is one object. That's one asset that has been fractured by our fracture tool, which does this very quickly. And Lightwave internally with Bullet Dynamics sees this one object asset as thousands of pieces. When you go to other applications, you basically have all those parts and pieces as separate assets, which weight your scene down. And this is a really cool thing about Lightwave workflow, but of course we work with simulations from any package.
Yeah, yeah. So let's say we want everything to fall down, but this piece of architecture here. So what we can do, even in this case, is to select the pin tool. Maybe I should enlarge my brush. Do this. I'm just painting.
So you're using a brush sculpting tool to paint where the simulation is going to occur, and you can change a dynamic simulation, the way that it comes across, the way that it looks instantly.
Yeah.
And let's see how that changed our simulation.
So now that's what happens.
Very cool.
This piece of architecture is staying exactly in place.
Now, go here and interactively paint the brush on some of these pieces that are laying on the ground, and watch this. Paint on some of these pieces. Hold the shift key, there you go. So you hold the shift key to add, you can keep things. Now leave it at that. Now play the simulation back. There we go. So you've completely changed the look of that simulation without recalculating. Let's say you have this asset, and you now need to use it in another show where you just want an airplane to come and hit a certain section of the bridge. You don't have to resimulate and recalculate. We are using sculpting and brush tools to do this interactively, in the moment, instantly, without resimming in ChronoSculpt.
Yeah, what is cool, we can do the opposite. I mean, we play the animation, and now we want this to fall down, or this piece to fall down. So we just paint on, and
there you go.
We have total control over the simulation. Oh, you can see here, these pieces are naturally still on, but no problem. We can click on them.
There you go.
And they go down.
So you can see how useful and time-saving this would be to get your shots out. You don't have to go back to the drawing board if you have to make these types of changes. This is a tool that works with every package. It uses Autodesk Geometry Cache. It uses Lightwave MDD. You can import Alambic. So any software that you're using, all of these tools are there for you. We're unlocking the secret tools that were locked away in Lightwave to every user that uses every package. And this is going to be a huge time saver. Again, it's available now in our store. We have a limited time show special here. You can purchase this. The list price for this package is $3.99. We have a show special for $2.99 for a limited time, but you get the software now. We will have a Apple version, a Macintosh version coming soon, and this is also planned for Linux.
Yeah, we can deform the objects in global mode. And
make your brush a little smaller so you can undo those. Show the undo process. So if you make a change you don't want, you just go back. Now shrink your brush down and use it smaller to deform the bridge in little areas, about that size, yeah. Now if you have a bridge, drag it down and make it bumpy. So let's say you had one shot before Earth was destroyed in Defiance. And let's say you have another shot after the war. You could go back to the same simulation bridge, make it look a little bit more damaged and destroyed. Let's do a little bit more on that. Drag some pits in the back. Like brush smaller. Yeah, little in the back. Go on the back side.
Here.
Yeah, and drag it down. Drag it down. Yeah, there you go. See? You can reimagine this geometry. Now play your simulation and show. And the simulation is still working on that, so you could quickly make these changes. Not only on organic characters, like we showed you earlier, but these dynamic simulations for cloth and rigid bodies. Should we load up the, do we have time? Yeah, let's load up the car scene with the soft body cloth and show that one. Now, what Lino's gonna load up here is a very cool scene that I did. The simulation was done for cloth on an automobile that was a different shape. This was done for a commercial maybe 2 years ago. So a client came in and said, you know, we saw the commercial that you did with this other vehicle, and we want to have the same type of thing on our vehicle. So just rotate around and show people how this simulation is fitting. Now you can see the penetrations on our Ferrari here. Let's play through the simulation. It's not really working, so it's penetrating the object. Well, with ChronoSculpt, you go back to this same cloth simulation, and you use sculpting brush tools to change your cache file over time.
How do I solve this? In global editing mode?
Yeah, I would go back to setup mode and start with that.
Oh, okay.
I would start with setup mode. Now, the difference between setup mode and global edit mode. Setup mode goes back to your default, undeformed version of your object. So before any animation deformation is applied to it, you make the changes globally. Global mode applies those changes globally, but it's to the deformed version. So if you want to see the character being deformed or the cloth being deformed and you use that as a guide for how you want to sculpt and time this object, you use the global mode. If you want to do it before the object's deformed to make global changes, you do that in the setup mode. You can also use neither one of those modes and just make changes which are added as a clip to your nonlinear timeline, which you can move at any time and make those changes with the curves and place them in your timeline non-destructively. So you can see how quickly Lino can make changes to this complex dynamic simulation. Within 5 minutes, you have a reimagined dynamic simulation, which is now working with a completely different object as he's making the changes. There you go. I mean, this is incredible for a time saver. This will allow you to take dynamic simulations from any software package that you happen to use, using Alambic, using Autodesk Geometry Cache, using Lightwave MDD, load that in and make these changes, resave it out and get your shot out, get your shot done, reuse assets that you've already got, and really start getting, you know, projects done quickly. Such a time saver. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine the time that I would have saved on so many projects.
I'm amazed.
Yeah.
I'm amazed by this.
And again, the advanced geometry engine that ChronoSculpt has, we're loading objects that are 20 million polygons very quickly, 10 million, 12. We were doing this on a laptop, preparing these assets that's about 1.5 years old with a mobile NVIDIA GPU. You don't have to have the craziest workstation ever, but if you do, oh my goodness, you know, you're gonna really have a great performance on that.
So you're saying that if I load up this model of this alien of 12 million?
12 million, let's see. Let me see what's going on with this, Lino.
Because it normally takes a lot to load an object like that.
Yes.
A lot. I think it's still loading. Oh, it's still loading.
But here's the thing.
It's done.
Also, because this is a cache sculpting application, you can use this to sculpt your cache files, but he's loading an asset right now, a 12 million poly object that does not have a cache file on it. Wow. So if you don't have a cache file, you can do these sculpts on an object and create either morphs that you can export to Autodesk Geometry Cache, to Lightwave MDD, to any application. You can export a frame of these sculpts as an OBJ for blend shapes. You can export it directly to a Lightwave endomorph, create your morph targets, make your changes on your objects, bring assets in from our friends at Pixelogic Zbrush, which we love, and we have great support with our GoZ application interface with Lightwave. Bring those huge polygon objects in and use ChronoSculpt to add added animation, cache these changes out, create your variations on morph targets, and it's really a cool workflow.
Yeah, the polygonal density of this object.
Oh my God, look at that. You can't even see.
Amazing.
It's so dense, you can't even see.
It's amazing, really. Okay, so let's play with morphs. We show dynamics. We have shown dynamics.
The facial morph thing, maybe.
Yeah, let's show that. I love it.
So you know we've shown character animation cache file. We've shown the dynamics cache file. What Lino's going to do now is he's going to load a facial animation and show you how with simple morphs that he did, he's going to do variations on that facial performance in ChronoSculpt to give an added level of detail in a non-destructive way, and he can rebake out that facial animation into any application that supports Alambic, Autodesk Geometry Cache, or Lightwave MDD formats, or save it out with OBJs for blend shapes in Maya directly to endomorphs in Lightwave and create your facial animation.
Okay, we have generated this animation using Never in Motion.
Yes.
You know, the facial
important.
recognition.
So Lino used our Never on Motion plugin with the Microsoft Kinect camera to perform this facial animation in real time. We will be showing you that later, and it's a really cool demo to see.
So, you know, the Kinect recognizes a very limited number of expressions. You know, you can see when you open your mouth, when you move your eyebrows. But if we could add variation to this very basic, you know, capture,
yes,
that would be great.
Yes.
And we can do that with ChronoSculpt. So let's choose, for example, this moment here. Let's say we want to add a variation to the mouth. I'm going to drag some of this point here, like this. I'm global editing mode. I want to create keyframes, so something we didn't show yet. And so now we get this, which is a very natural variation. Of course, we can use using the ease out controls to get a smoother.
And you can click on the clip too, on the dot in the center, and move that anywhere in the timeline, reposition that morph. You know, these are morphs that can be applied also on top of cache files. So this is a nonlinear timeline blending application for any application using, again, Alambic, Autodesk Geometry Cache, Lightwave MDD, your OBJs, your endomorphs are supported.
So let's make it more, you know, asymmetrical. We can really add a lot of natural
nuances.
Yeah.
Let's show how you can erase that change.
Yeah.
Just do the undo. Look how quickly the undo happens. You make a change that you don't like. There's complete, very blazing fast undo in this. You can also save your projects out from this application so that they're non-destructive. You want to come back and reimagine what you did, what you sculpted over time. You don't have to bake it all out and then lose those changes. You can save this out and make changes at a later time.
You can do incredible things.
Incredible.
Everything becomes so organic, so I love it. I really love this. And of course, you can, let's go back to this morph. You can copy and paste the morph somewhere else. So I'm going to move this here. So we get the same mouth deformation in some other place. So no work is lost. Of course, you can save your project once you're done, as you can save your cache and your project and reload your project, do your changes, save the cache again.
Yes.
So it's a pretty fast
Let's show the setup mode where you can go and actually change the way this character looks and keep that deformation. So let's rotate around the side of the head, and let's drag the brush out and reimagine his, move the brush bigger, and let's change the shape of his head kind of dramatically.
Oh.
Yeah, like that.
Poor guy.
Now go back and go back out of setup mode, and you can see that the animation that you have is on this same character. You've got a variation of that character. If you're doing crowd scenes, or you want to quickly change the look of your characters in any application that you've cached files from, this is the quick way to do that.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool. ChronoSculpt, essentially a sculpting application over time for cache files. You can take the concept of sculpting, apply it to your animation and cache files over time. It really is something that no one else is offering in this way. You can use it with any application. We have a Macintosh version planned quickly. You can get the Windows 64-bit, the Windows 32-bit right now in the store. You can purchase it here for a limited time show special in our booth. The cost is $399 list price. The show special for a limited time is $299. There is also a Linux version planned.
Yeah, yeah. And of course we can save endomorphs directly in a Lightwave object, or export the object in obj, so you can add it as a blend shape in Maya, for example. And this is very useful. You don't need a cache to work with ChronoSculpt. You just need geometry.
Right.
Let's take a look at this, because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and so what Lino said is any frame that you have in the timeline, you could go to that frame and export that as a OBJ for blend shapes in Maya or any other application, or you can export it and save it directly to a Lightwave endomorph on your Lightwave objects. So you can snapshot any time in your timeline as a morph target as well to use in your application. It's very cool.
Yeah. So we have this object created by our friend Dino Mascitelli.
Yes, Dino.
Thank you, Dino. Which is really cool and it's perfect for what we are going to show. There is no cache at all in this animation, and of course this is, how do you call it in English? This kind of
pufferfish.
Pufferfish. Okay. We can use, for example, in setup mode, even in this case, the bulge. Drag it like this, and just deflate. Much.
I would go larger with the hole.
Okay, I think
yeah, that's good. That's good.
So we have a different fish, the same fish in a different condition.
Yes.
And so let's go out for setup mode. Again, we have absolutely no cache.
No cache on this object at all. This is just the object.
What we can do is just play with it.
Oh, by the way, how many polygons are you dealing with here?
It's 2.5 million.
2.5 million polygons here that we're sculpting on.
Are we crazy? Do we have another option? Maybe it's not so heavy. I think it's going to work.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay, so of course we didn't talk about symmetry.
Symmetry mode.
We have symmetry on any axis. So this is cool. I'm going to use just the X now. So we can do some variations here, and of course immediately we can see how we have created a keyframe. And we can change the range of this keyframe, and of course, even in this case, we can make the curve more or less smooth. And again, I can go in another keyframe and a different variation.
Create another clip.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a nonlinear timeline that is actually creating morphs, deformations on this 2.5 million polygons object in the timeline non-destructively. You can slide these clips around, you can save this out as a cache file, you can grab frames from this and save them as endomorphs. It's very cool.
I can add other variation to this poor fish. We are really... And I'm using it with a mouse.
Yes.
Of course, ChronoSculpt works perfectly with a Wacom tablet.
Yes.
And I'm missing it, but you know.
Yeah, Lino was
do
doing this sculpting with a mouse, guys. You know, imagine with a tablet what you're going to be doing. You're pushing around all these deformations, all this sculpting over time with ChronoSculpt, working with any applications files.
Of course, you have pressure control, so
pressure control.
You can be really, really precise in what you do. And so from just an object, we have created an animation. So sometimes, you know, if you have to create a gore effect or something from scratch, just having the object there, or let's see something else, because probably the last thing, because time is tight.
Yes.
I created a fluid simulation in Lightwave, not using fluids. I had this object here. I modeled this object. I modeled this object in Zbrush, I have to say that, using the Dynamesh.
We love Zbrush. This is a great complement tool for Zbrush as well.
Yeah, Dynamesh is a great tool. But then I import the object in Lightwave, and I added some, you know, deformation tools, and I animated it, basically.
Hit your A key. There you go.
So here we are, free simulation without fluid. And somewhere else. So you can see this animation here. We're dealing with more than 1 million, almost 1 million.
1.5 million polygons.
So we have this. This is being created completely in Lightwave, using displacement animation, using vortex, this kind of modifiers.
But you could use any application that you're comfortable with to generate these assets and save them out as Autodesk Geometry Cache, Alambic, Lightwave MDD, if there's any application that supports the MDD format, and load all of those directly into ChronoSculpt.
Even in this case, we're dealing with a pretty dense geometry. And let's go and smooth shade. So let's say we want to add some variation to this, some tweaking to the animation. We can do it very easily. I'm going to use the drag again. I want this, piece of geometry to be a little longer. I want this change to stay. So I'm going to just flat out the is out. I want this to be really, really smooth. So let's change the curve like that. So now I have this variation. And I can add thousands of this.
That's right.
Easily, quickly.
And sculpting over time, everybody. This is really cool. This application works with anything you're using. If you have any dynamic simulations, any characters you want to make variations on, you want to use this to generate blend shapes or morph targets, ChronoSculpt is for you. You can get it on our website directly. You can purchase it in the booth for a limited time show special. The list price is $3.99. The show special for a limited time is $2.99. You get the pre-release version now. We're shipping all of the final versions of our application in Q4, but you get what we're using right now in your account when you purchase it, with beige at the front of our booth at the beautiful kiosk in the front, or online in our store. You can get access to these tools and start using them immediately. Well, I think that's it, Lino. We've done the reveal for ChronoSculpt. Thank you so much.
I'm
it's
so
awesome.
excited about
yes. And I hope all of you guys will check it out. Visit the website, lightwave3d.com. Visit chronosculpt.com to see more details about ChronoSculpt, and keep